to Bros Chopping It Up. Of course, man, it's your host, Renaissance, and of course, my actual brother. Introduce yourself again, please, sir.
All right, my name is Twan.
Yeah, we gonna call it. That's a short nickname we gave him as a
Yeah.
youth of it. It's a full long thing, but it's been a great time since we talked last, and just had a great idea while sitting back and thinking about something I saw, and it was hope and fear. And I kept seeing so many things, whether it was sports or the upcoming presidential election, or people in the economy and inflation, what's happening with the money. It's a lot of people kind of feeling a little on edge right now. And that's what prompted this topic. So, and how's everything going for you so far in life and all?
It's going well, just sitting here watching things and, just being a sponge to everything, but also, remaining grounded as well, listening to everything that's going on and, just, staying focused.
Yeah, but see that's I guess that's one thing that can propel you with hope or and keep you away from fear. And the question I like to just get started, I want people to think about this where they are. And I want to take you back like maybe 400, 455 years ago when we had a bunch of people who were put on these huge boats. You can see where I'm going. And
Yeah.
they
Oh,
were put on
yeah.
these, and they were sold by their own people, some of them, and they were put on this boat and then packed in real tight, and they were on water going someplace they didn't know.
Right.
And I'm wondering, what do you think they were thinking of when they were in the hull of that ship? You think they were thinking of hope or fear?
Absolutely not. Fear. Definitely fear because they didn't know where they were going. It was by force. They probably thought they were going to their death, and some of them did meet that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They had no idea, but they knew it wasn't good because they were sold. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they, like you said, they were sold by their own people. Their tribes are taking over that, and I think the reason that they did sell them is because of fear. Once they overtook that tribe, there was a fear of a retaliation attempt. So they just, when they overtook that tribe, they just sold the rest of them
Yeah.
remaining in slavery.
And the thing is, I think that the tribe who might have sold them was doing this hoping that they're not going to take them. So
Exactly.
when I thought about it, I said, man, that's what we in modern society are still dealing with on a day-to-day basis, whether it's, will I have enough gas to get to the next destination? But some people work on hope, but it's like when I looked at it, the definition I came up with fear is just a tool used by someone who is weak, hoping you will never realize that they are weak.
Nice.
Yeah, the bullies.
Yeah, the bully, which and the bully is essentially a coward, and it's interesting. Like I would take a coward over a bully because a coward knows that he's a coward. He knows that he's not
True.
trying to be anything but that. A bully is a coward that is fearful.
And does not want to be exposed, of course.
Exactly.
Because if they're exposed, then someone else might come through and then show who they really are. So, we think about, even, and I bring it forward to the election that's coming up, and I'm wondering, a lot of people are saying this and that, they're spouting things that other people might have said, but how much research have you done for yourself to to confirm your choice of who you're going to vote for? It's like, and one party is really voting out of fear because when they first came into power, it was like anybody but Obama. And see, that means I don't want another quote unquote black man to be in charge of us, the free world. And so I fear another one. And now we have a quote unquote black female party Indian, of course. She may
Right.
be the first female president and of African heritage. And it's like, I'm looking at it, okay, some people are operating in hope, say, I hope she's going to help us get back and unite. Some people say, oh no, we can't have this. I fear having another colored person who's now a female as a commander in chief. What do you think about that whole hope and fear about voting?
It's a layer, it's a loaded situation. I think, like you said, a lot of people are fearful, even in terms of men. If you want to tackle that, some men are fearful of a female being in that position, which I find very intriguing, because at the same point in time, like it's like you would much rather, and not to get too political, but I feel like there are some people that I've spoken to that would much rather have someone that is, not that great, doesn't have the greatest, track record, to be in office, as opposed to, having a female, simply because she's a female. They won't admit it, but they will find other reasons. But it's really boils down to it's because it's a female, and
Yeah.
that's very
The,
archaic and kind of old
it's
now.
archaic. The very thought of it is like when we were growing up, and you had a mother or a grandmother, they were the one who was running the house.
Exactly.
And we didn't have a problem with grandmother or mom running the house because we know things are going to get done. If dad was there, it's like, well, it might not be done as neatly, or your food might be burned, or your clothes might not be on. Whatever it was, it was like, it might not be done
Yeah, right.
to the highest extent. But yet, here we go. We have an opportunity to not only set the course of history, but also really just put a person who has a proven track record. I mean, she's a prosecutor. I mean,
Yes.
and like I said, we're not going to stick too long with the political side, but she's done things. She's went against big pharma. She's went against other agencies. She's went against drug cartels. These things are proven, written,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she knocked them out the box. And it was like, okay, why would I not want someone who has that type of control over themselves and understand that if I can do the best for people that are around me, I make everything better.
Right.
I don't know. It's crazy how get a point.
Okay. No, I was gonna say, just listening to you, like, and interestingly with fear, I think one thing that I've learned to do, like, but it really is the opposite of what's confidence. If you fear something, research it. If there's something that bothers you, research it. Many times we create a big boogeyman in our mind, and when we do the research, it's just a little ant. You
Right.
know. So I mean, that's just something I throw out there. And I think, like you said, a lot of people you operate off fear, but if you really just like hunker down and do some research on whatever that fear is, you realize that you have what it takes to overcome that.
Yeah, but the thing is the word was research or search, which means to go and seek, which means to go and
Yes.
look, which means there's an intentionality about going to find answer or some resolution or whatever it is, but it's an active thing. Whereas today, people want that instant, I hate to use the word instant gratification, but it's like, I want to go to here and just hit microwave one time to get my rice and get my meal and be sitting out eating, watching TV. Versus, I'd rather take 20 minutes to do a pot of rice and call it a day. 20 minutes is not going to
Yeah.
steal away from my time. In fact, I can
Right.
find other things to do while that 20-minute expires. I don't know. It's just it's like people search for the easiest way to get things done.
Yeah. It's funny. Like I looked up also the definition of fear as well. Came up with something similar to what you said. See, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous or likely to cause pain. So, is likely still kind of tatters under the umbrella of unknown. If something is likely, it's not proven yet. It's unknown, and that is what the basis of fear is something out of the unknown. But again, to piggyback on what you said, if there's something that's unknown, you go search.
Yeah, it's too. There are too many people when I was thinking about this topic, and I said, wow. I said these people, they showed hope in the end, but they initially started off with a little bit of intrepidation of fear, and it was like, if you use it properly, fear can actually motivate you to do something to counteract whatever you think. Like you said, it's the unlikelihood of the belief. Now, my major book that I wrote when the pandemic hit, and I love the title of it, says Fear, the Greatest Show on Earth. Then the pandemic just dropped down on people in March and April, and you had people dying in the hospital at record rates and across
Yeah.
the world. And I was looking at how people were moving from a year ago. And it was like
Right.
they were moving in fear. There was no hope.
Mm-hmm.
There was no hope. It was like, well, I hope they come up with, the only hope was, give me a vaccination, give me something to remedy this so I can get back to doing what I normally like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's where you can allow fear to cause you to make a decision that might not be in the best interest.
Exactly.
I think a pastor would say, you make a short-term decision that has long-term consequences.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
it's like, I don't know. It's like when I think about it, I came up with a few people, and I was like, well, and Moses was the first one I came up with because most people don't even realize that Moses, who was born in Egypt and, was in the little basket, and the princess of Egypt found him and made him her son and so forth. They don't realize that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible.
Right. Yeah.
But they
Torah, yeah.
realized he wasn't around with Adam and Eve. He wasn't around with Abraham. So how could he write this book unless he heard the voice that was telling him what to write? And we study these books religiously. Think
Yeah.
about it. He wasn't even there,
Yeah.
but he wrote the books.
Mm-hmm. The hope, right?
Right.
And, the interesting thing, again, I was thinking about this fear and hope. And like you say, a lot of times you start off with things, there's an trepidation there, and then, you develop hope. Well, it's like, I thought about, how do you get from fear to hope? What's the bridge? And I found that I was doing some research, and what I think is faith is the bridge between fear and hope. Because if you have fear, that's a belief in the likelihood of something causing pain. And I looked up hope, and it's like the feeling or expectation or desire of certain thing to happen. But you have to have faith, right? So if you have faith, the faith that something is going to happen, you have that belief, and then once you have a belief, then you can see. And when you can see, you can execute an attack.
Right.
And like Muhammad Ali said, the eyes, the hands can't hit what the eyes can't see.
Perfect example. It was, and when you sing, my mind immediately went to, and this was, as a young man, I remember that verse from Hebrews 11:1, and it was just one that always would stick with me and kind of reminded me to keep going. It said, now faith is the substance of things hoped for,
Aha, there you go.
the evidence of things not seen. And
There you go.
as I was traveling on my nomadic journey for the past 4 years since the pandemic, and fear was all around me, but I could only tap into hope because hope was that day-to-day thing, and then hope turned into faith
Mm-hmm.
because I had to have long-term belief. But the hope was a day-to-day movement that, okay, this day I'm going to find a better answer, or if I don't, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to be out of it. This is kind of, mind you, I'm coming off of having a stroke and an aneurysm, and I'm trying to
Right.
get back into the workforce, and it's like, how strong am I to really physically go out and work with students? I'm not capable. And it's like, but I was hoping that the things that had been embedded
Mm-hmm.
would be enough to give me the strength to persevere.
Right.
And the key word I like to use at faith is about endurance.
Yes.
See, people think that life is a sprint. I run here, get here, it's done. Life is truly a marathon.
It is. And it's interesting. You see that a marathon, when you think about races, the Olympic races, the track is in a circle. And life is not linear, like you said. It's not point A to point B. It's like just like the universe. Everything goes in orbit. Everything works in cycles. So even you think about healing processes of everything. You have good days, you have bad days. I'm sure we all have experienced death, or pain of some sort. We have our good days, and then we have our setbacks.
Right.
And then we continue to have faith and hope. and those things propel us forward to an outer orbit,
Wow.
and then from there, we have those shorter spans of time where we're feeling bad, and longer times of orbit where we're feeling great. So it's life is it's not linear. It's
But
very
but you have
cyclical.
to endure. And when I was reading a book, I just finished it recently, and it was talking about how you sometimes may have to go through the same test over and over. And the reason why you'll do that is because you might have forgotten a lesson you learned time 36th time. Here's the 45th time. Have you picked up yet? And if you do, like you said, those bad days now become shorter moments,
Right.
and you have more peace and more joy and more of the things that you would prefer to have anyway. But a lot of us are like, I'd rather just go ahead and give in. I remember a few times I've been around it and I hear the brother say, man, I'm gonna just lay it down. And what that means is, man, I'm just go ahead and sit in this prison cell for about 30 more days until my time is up. I'm like, you lay it down so there's no more fight. Man, I'm gonna lay it down. I know I got 3 hots in a cot. Lay it down. No, I didn't like the fact that there was a gate that I couldn't go beyond, no matter how. It wasn't like a
Right.
gate in the yard. Okay, I can go out and go play with somebody else, but it's like this gate is like, you can't just walk out this gate. In fact, you walk close to it, you might be put in isolation. So,
Right.
I look at people who were in this situation and they always had fear. I feared getting out, so I'm gonna just stay here and lay it down. And it was like, oh, and it made me think about when David. When David was anointed as a king, as a little young tyke, he's going out to feed his brothers at the field, and they fighting against the Philistines. Now, people might say, well, yeah, a giant. There were actually giants that lived in that area. And they were humongous. They weren't small, and David was a little runt. But when David saw that these grown men with armor on and sword who had been through training were like, yo, they were afraid. It was like they were hoping somebody else came.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But Dave was like, no, I hope that the strength that I've used when I had to fight that lion, that bear. He was like, look, I've already been through fights with things that I know are supposed to destroy me. They did. So
Yeah.
guess what? You, Goliath, will not destroy me. And many people who teach that in Bible lessons and so forth, there's one thing they really don't point out, and I think a lot of people, you need to catch this point. When David started to fight Goliath, David actually ran towards the giant.
Yes.
Okay, he's small, he's a runner. All he got is a rock and a slingshot. This man he's huge.
That's it. Yeah.
But rather than sit back and like, okay, I'm gonna just find my defense, Dave was like, I'm going. I'm running towards you because I fear no evil.
There you go.
And when I thought about it, I was like, yo, people missed the point that he ran towards this opposition that was bigger than him, stronger than him, and much mightier.
Yeah. Ran into fear
Right. So,
till you head on.
and that's what you said it earlier. I think that hope is a tool used by one who knows their weakness, but they trust, got faith, got
Faith.
hope in a
Yes.
higher power.
Right.
It's like I know I'm weak in my own flesh, but can I conquer this thing in front of me? And not only David, you, me, other people we know, I have friends who've conquered things that they didn't think they could do. But when it's like,
Right.
when they realize I am weak, but he is strong.
Yes.
He fights for me.
Yes. It makes me think of that one of my favorite poems we had in the house called Footprints. I never forgot that. I love that. I'm going to summarize, but basically, God was walking in the sand and there were 2 sets of footprints. And then he realized that, when things got tough in his life, there was only 1 set of footprints. He said, God, why did you leave me? And God said, the reason why that you saw 1 set of footprints, because it was at that moment that I carried you.
Right. There it is.
Yes.
And see, it's that I've been through, when I lived in a hotel for about 10 months, never experienced this in my life before. And I walked in and I could see nothing, but there was a sign, and there was a sign of a bird, and I heard a voice say to me, if you dwell under my wings, I'll protect you. I didn't know how long I was hoping it was going to be like a month and I'm gone. But it was like 10 months. By month 4, I had to get to a regimen. Like, okay, this wing said, long as I dwell in the secret place of the Most High, He's my refuge and my fortress.
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, I moved from there, and there was an elevation point. And I looked at, I could have operated in fear very easily, but I could not. I could not, because I know I'd been through too many things as a 16-year-old, 20-year-old, and 30-year-old, and I was still here.
You fought the lion and the bear. You've seen victory before. Once you see it once, you will never forget it. And you'll have the faith to follow through with those directions that you receive.
But that's where, that steps of researching and studying and getting yourself prepared. A lot of us out here, we're moving on fear and hope, but I've asked you, meaning the audience, what are you doing to prepare yourself? I mean, when I was thinking about it as we begin to wrap it up, I was like, there's a verse or the word of the day, which is what we're going to start featuring. And I'm asking your definition.
Nice.
What does the word transform mean to you? Transform.
It's definitely a change. Definitely a change from one place to another. There's a transition happening. There's a change happening. You're changing from one state to another, or one place to another. There's a shift in your current being to another state of being.
I like it because as a teacher, I remember I taught that word, and now I break it down into the Greek and Latin roots of it. And
Yes.
the first part, the TRANS, trans means across, like you transcontinental railroad, transatlantic slowly, transmission, transmute. And the word
Right.
form deals with shape. And then when I was just sitting back pondering, I was like, so it's stages of development. You just said it in so many words that we must encounter.
Right.
And you start off as an infant, you get a toddler, adolescent, you get your teenagers, mid-20s and 30s and so forth. And you're not the same shape, you're not the same look, you grow, you move, you grow out, you grow up, you get taller.
Right.
But that transformation is easy. It's the transformation of consciousness.
Right.
Are you willing to change your mindset as you go? Because I can't do the same things I did as I was 17.
Right.
But
Right.
there are a lot of grown ass people out here who act like they're still teenagers.
Well, as I mentioned before, met the older guy and said, aging is not a choice. Getting old is not a choice. Growing up is.
Right. But see, it's easy to say because a lot of us we're not doing it. We're 17, we got a home. We don't have a home. 30, we got a home. Okay, so there's a transforming in your consciousness. But is it just for material things? Or is it for a personal growth of you're in development? Because if you don't change this, then you can change all things around you, but you will be complacent, stagnant, and destitute.
Exactly.
It just made me think. I was like, do we allow our consciousness to change over time? Because I'm glad I don't think like I did when I was 30. Now, I was good, but I had a quick mouth, quick temper. I ain't give a damn. I was gonna say what I felt like. Now, after hitting 50, it's a talk less, listen more to you.
Right.
Do I have the same mindset and thinking like, yeah, they've done it, but I don't have to say it. I don't have to verbally let it come out of my mouth.
Exactly.
Totally different. And I was thinking that when we go through life, how did you go from where you were as a student to the military to out of the military to marriage, divorce, and where you are now? What motivated you to go from there and keep moving forward and not stop?
I would say a combination of definitely faith and hope. Like you mentioned before, those things that we overcome a lot in our lives that we don't give ourselves credit for. And you look back over those rocks and pebbles, a lot of them and you really take a step back and look at yourself and your development, and you'll see that there's a lot that you have grown from. Lots of times we lose sight of that because we're so focused on looking at what's ahead of us, which is very important. But sometimes, in order to build up that faith that we need to have, we need to, be, give ourselves grace and look at what your higher being has done for you. Always, never forget that, and like you said, you fight those lions and those tigers and bears. You're not forsaken. In the moment, this sucks, but you get over that. And then you look at those wins and victories and things of that nature, and you just keep following through. There's heavy moments that come through. When I got out of the military, I had no idea what I was going to do. I just wanted to get out of the military. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know when, but I just knew that I had a drive in me. I had faith that, something would happen, that I had what it took to get out there and get what I needed to have done and take on my responsibilities. Going through marriage, I have fear getting into marriage. I've never done that before. I've seen, a model, our parents, what it looks like, but it's different when you're in it, You go through different things, and tells you how to, get through marriage. It's just one of those things, that it's different for everybody. The divorce, never been through that. It's just hard. You can talk to people who've been through it, but you have your own experience, your own relationship, your own emotions to deal with, but yes, there were times that I felt very low, didn't know where the next day, the next breath was going to come from, but there was always this little thing, this small part that I felt, like I said, going back to that pull of footprints, I knew that even as low as I felt, that I was being carried, and even now looking back retrospectively, I can look back and say that, yes, I was definitely being carried because of the faith that I've had before. You have to have faith, in order to make it through. But it's the thing is, like, you're not making it through. You're being carried through.
You realize that, I think what in essence, what you're saying is that when we get to these places and these pivotal milestones of our lives, do we realize that we didn't do it by ourselves?
Not at all.
And see, that's when you reach a point where you realize that the things that you have needed or the people who you needed were added unto you. I mean, when I was on my nomadic journey, the short version is this: I met so many different people who were like, "Oh, Renaissance man, you were like the coolest person." They became my family for that immediate time.
Right.
And they served a purpose, and I served a purpose in their life. But the thing was, it was always a give and take. I never was like, "Can we see how much I can take from them without giving all that I had?"
Right.
And in the end, I look now and say, I'm so happy for having gone through those trials because, like you said, I've been there before. When I was 17,
Yes.
when I was
Yes.
30, and I moved away. When I was, going through my rehabilitation after 2 strokes, it was like I had never been there. I'd seen people when I see they got their strokes, they were in wheelchairs and still had spit come outside their mouth and couldn't use one side of their hand. I saw that and I was like, my hope was that you would give me enough strength that you would help me regain back my mobility, my ability to think, my ability to navigate, my ability to build a life for me and those of my loved ones.
Right.
And I think if you remember, you said it great, if you remember the lessons that we've been through, you know that we didn't get there by ourselves. But we have to use that more and more. So as you said, when you're orbiting around, those bad days are few. Those bad moments are few, and every day is joy, peace, and love. Not sound like some hyperbole, but I'm like, it's actually attainable. People can actually want this, but you have to want it.
Right.
And in a good place that I can bring it to closure is like, what helped me was the verse that said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." Now, I didn't say you wouldn't go through pain. It didn't say that you wouldn't be hurt. It didn't say that people turn their backs. It said that if you seek me first, I'll add peace, I'll add comfort, I'll add restoration.
Right.
I just think that that's a good place for us to, remember, seek you first. What do you, better yet, like you said, when you researched Kamala Harris, you saw different things. My thing is, what are you seeking?
What are you seeking?
What are you seeking? Great show, man. I enjoyed talking with you, man.
Likewise, as
And
always.
good conversation. I pray that people really get a chance to find out whether you're going to move in hope or fear, because fear can move you to hope, but are you willing to take the step?
That's the question.
Yeah.